Okay. Now I'm on YouTube as well. YouTube and IG. Okay. All right. So let me see where I'm going to start this. Okay. So I hope all of you are doing well. So me quede volada. So I just came from Cartagena. I was in Cartagena from Tuesday until today. Today is Saturday. I arrived in Cartagena on Tuesday. It's my second time in Cartagena. What really drew my interest to Colombia in the first place was the dancing and the music. Okay, I actually don't know much about Pablo Escobar. I never watched Narcos. I really don't have the attention span for a lot of like gangster, drug dealer type movies, like even American Gang, that kind of stuff in the first place, right? I am into safety though. So one of my best friends is Colombian from Queens, New York. I love her. I love you, Stephanie. You hear this video. In college, I loved salsa, being from New York, being from Harlem. And in college, I remember I had this Putumayo. Putumayo used to be this company that came out with different types of international music CDs. And I had a couple of them, salsa ones. And I remember my friends definitely telling me, oh, that's Puerto Rican, that's Colombian. And then I had this one Colombia CD from Putumayo love it. Like I had Colombian salsa y cumbia, which I love cumbia. And that's when my friends definitely started to educate me about like Colombian music. And she kept saying, you have to go to Cali, you have to go to Cali. And and the way that she dances, like Cubans can dance their ass off, Puerto Ricans can dance their ass off. That's one thing I love about Latin America, but Colombians also can dance their ass off. And Puerto Rican, like New York salsa is amazing, especially like the 70s Fania stuff. I love it. The salsa in Cuba, comes out of Cuba and Afro-Cubans, amazing, but different than the Puerto Rican or New York style. In Colombia, same thing. Like Colombians, like not only do they have good music, but they have good taste in music. Like the music that Colombians play, they have very good taste in music. So I've always, and then my friend Stephanie, she showed me some Afro-Colombian movements back then. And I remember like she's my favorite salsa partner to dance with. I love, and I feel like she had the biggest influence on my style. I grew up in New York around Dominicans, which are more merengue. So I dance merengue too, on bachata, but I'm not a big fan of bachata. But I grew up around Dominicans and New Yorkers mostly. And still my Colombian, friend, she had the biggest influence on how I probably dance salsa. Like I'm a mixture of things, but I've always had this deep love to want to come here. So I went to Cartagena, and there's a lot of different Afro-Colombian dances, okay, that people know nothing about. A lot of people know about the Afro-Cuban stuff. And even with the Afro-Cuban stuff, mostly what you find is Yoruba dances, but there's a lot more. When you say Afro-Cuban dance, you're talking about an umbrella of like 200 things. That's why I was just in Santiago de Cuba last September studying some of the more rare Afro-Cuban dances that might have come from Haiti or other places that you don't normally find. Okay, there's one teacher I know in America that teaches it, and she's in New York. But with Colombia, you really can't find it. And anytime I've seen an Afro-Colombian dance class, it's been like in the Bay Area, and it's been like a light, bright, and damn near white Afro-Colombian, not like a black, for real Afro-Colombian. So, and that's the thing about Latin America. They want to gloss over their race issues, and it's a problem. And that's something that I have so much to say about, so much as a part of this conversation. So Cartagena, when I went to Cartagena last time, there were dancers outside at El Torre de Reloj, which is like the watchtower, and where everybody's always at night. And I remember a couple times seeing these dancers that were out there that were like, wearing like almost tribal type outfits with their drums. They were doing a lot of Afro Colombian stuff. They were doing some Afro-Venezuelan stuff because there's a lot of Venezuelans in Colombia now. And they were doing some Afro-Brazilian stuff because I actually danced samba with them because they started playing Samba de Bahia and came up to me and they probably didn't know I knew how to dance it. And then they were like shocked. So I know all those rhythms, and this is what I study. So the Afro-Brazilian Samba de Bahia, all of that, so I was like loving it. this time, but then I couldn't find, like, there's a dance called champeta, which I've talked about. I have YouTube videos where I talk about champeta. It's an Afro-Colombian dance. I fucking love it. But you can't find people in Cartagena where it's supposed to be big. I cannot find the Afro-Colombians in Cartagena who dance it. Last time I met a dude, who he took me to this spot. He's from Cartagena, and he knew how to dance really well. And me and him danced together. But everybody that was around us couldn't dance. They were all tourists. And so I remember the next night I went out on my own. I went to all the places that they say on the blogs that you go to, because they say, oh, Cartagena has a bustling nightlife. Go to these like 10 spots. Tourists, and a lot of mostly white tourists, and then even some black ones, but Afro-Americans as well, who were just as clueless as the white people, you know? And I'm like, okay. So this time I go and I'm like, okay. And last time I also took class at this school called Crazy Salsa. And I took some champeta classes, but the way they taught me was like how they would teach like white people. Sorry, no offense to white people. Because really there are white people who if you take a dance class in the Bay Area, if you take a dance class in New York, you know, like they teach everybody the same way, white or not. And they're not teaching you on that level of like what I mean when I say that. A lot of times white people, they need the exact counts for things. Like they will be like a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. You know, instead of like just letting things flow. They need these counts. And when you teach that way, and when you're thinking that when you dance, you look like that, right? And so that's how they were teaching. And it's like, it wasn't funky, okay? So I said, this time I don't want to take any, and I'm looking at their Instagram, and I see all these videos with all these corny people in the room that can't dance. And it's not like everybody that goes to the dance class has to dance. But it's like they really are catering to tourists who aren't really serious about trying to learn. They think, oh, I'm going to Cartagena, let me take a salsa class. When first of all, salsa is not even big in Cartagena, which is something that I just learned. I kind of assumed that all Colombians were into salsa, even though I know that cumbia is really like the music of Colombia. Colombia has a lot of different types of music and dance forms, but cumbia is like, is Colombia's contribution to the world, okay? But they have good salsa artists, and all the Colombians I know always play good salsa music. So I'm thinking that that there would be, you know, people that dance salsa in Cartagena, but they really don't. Like, they don't even play it that much. I would hear it sometimes, but people don't really dance to salsa. And every time I would say that, they were like, oh, you have to go to Cali. You have to go to Cali. Everybody kept saying that to me. Now, this is what my best friend Stephanie told me back when we were in college. You have to go to Cali. So Cali was the first place I ever wanted to go to in Colombia for that reason. But I also knew that Colombia is very black, and there are a lot of black people in different parts of Colombia. Colombia has a lot of different Colombian dances, the indigenous, the Afro-indigenous, the stuff from the Spanish, like it's very broad when it comes to their dancing music traditions. So I didn't think that Cartagena would be as commercial as it is, but it's totally commercial. And so last night I was sitting at a bar, and there were these two white girls next to me who were like, one of them was speaking Spanish, but then speaking English like a white American. And so come to find out, they're both from Chicago. They were both born and raised in Chicago. But one of them was Colombian, but from Chicago. And the Colombian girl from Chicago moved to New York 2 years ago. And it's really funny because I moved to Chicago 2 years ago. And then we had this funny debate about the food, because I think that Chicago has better food than New York. And I will debate and bet money on anybody with that shit. I'm a native New Yorker, but Chicago food definitely beats New York. And she didn't agree with me. And so it was like, it was just interesting. But it's like a small world. So anyhow, we get into this conversation, and she started to tell me about how, first of all, she gets very offended that all people want to think about with Colombia is Coke, Pablo Escobar. Like, people get offended by it. They don't like it. It reminds them of a horrible time in their history. Like, don't ask them about that shit. They don't want to hear about it. So I've always heard people say that. Now, I wouldn't ask anybody that, because that was never my interest in Colombia. It was never anything having to do with Pablo Escobar. I'm not fascinated. I don't really care. You know, like, I just could have never known that. Now, but the thing is, though, what I do know is that my best friend told me back when we were in college, you know, she said, don't go to Colombia. You will get killed in a second. They will cut off your nose for your nose ring. Don't fuck around. Like, your life is worth nothing there. And she told me that. And she told me about the curfews, and she would try to go visit her family, like how they can't leave at certain times and the guerrillas. So I knew it was really bad. And I like safety, so I wasn't fucking with it back then. I wanted to go to Colombia, like I want to go to Venezuela, but I'm not trying to go to Venezuela right now. But Venezuela was a place I wanted to go to, just like I wanted to come here, right? I didn't come here until I found out that it was safe to come here, and it's a lot safer. This is it's a beautiful how something can change around so much. And like New York City in the 60s and the 70s is not New York City of today. Okay, so much safer than it was back then. And so beautiful things can happen and things can change, right? Now, now today when I was coming, and I've seen there's a lot of YouTube bloggers and a lot of Afro-Americans and white Americans and people from Sweden and other countries who have moved to Medellin, who praise this place, you know, and they're just like, this is my favorite city. They've traveled all these places, my favorite city on earth. You know, they love living here. I've heard Afro-Americans say they felt comfortable. So I've constantly heard that, and people just kept praising. I actually know a girl from New Orleans who's here teaching. She's been here for over a year. So I've always heard people praising Medellin. And so when this trip, I was going to go to Cartagena and then to Cali. But I was debating, like, should I go to Cali or should I go to Cartagena? And I originally booked my ticket back from Cali. So I originally had booked my ticket. But then I was talking to a Colombian Facebook friend of mine, and he told me, he said, as a solo traveler, you'd be better in Medellin because they have good public transportation. In Cali, you need a car, blah, 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 blah. So I said, okay, I'm going to listen because I'm a solo traveler, and he's telling me Medellin is better. And so I came to Medellin, right? Now, but ever since I've been here again, everybody keeps telling me, go to Cali. Every time people find out how much I love to dance and they find out how much I love Colombian salsa, all people say is you have to go to Cali. And I'm like, okay, I knew that Cali was I've known it was the salsa capital of Colombia. I've always known that. But I didn't know that that was like the only place that they really get down with salsa. I thought like, okay, all Colombians get down with salsa, but they're just the best. That's what I thought, right? But I'm finding out kind of, no, like Colombia, see, I haven't been a lot of places, but from what I can see, they're not as big generally as a salsa country as one would think. So, so anyhow, but I'm interested in Colombian salsa, but also other Afro-Colombian dances, right? And so this morning when I was on my way to, and I'm gonna do this. I have so many things I want to say to you guys about Cartagena, but I'm gonna put it in another video. Let me just get this video done. Okay. So this morning I'm checking out of my Airbnb to fly to Medellin, and my host, when she's like, when I really started talking to her about what I was into and how Cartagena had way too many tourists, like I'm over it. The girls from Chicago last night. That's what I was gonna say. She told me that Cartagena is like Cancun, and I didn't know that. And I've never been to Cancun. I never want to go to Cancun. I'm not into going places and being around a bunch of tourists and like corny shit and corny people. Like I go because like I want to be immersed in the culture and be around the realness. And that's why I'm going to talk about Costa Rica in another video, because I spent a lot of time in Costa Rica around the people. The people brought me to Costa Rica. And so I've seen a different Costa Rica than what a lot of people who might have gone there to visit have seen. So that will be another video. But what was I going to say? So she says to me, then I find out, see, I need to take geography. My mother always said when I was growing up that you guys need geography because you don't know where stuff is. And we didn't have geography. And I didn't know that Colombia had a Pacific and a Caribbean coast. Because when I think Pacific coast, Caribbean coast, I think East Coast, West Coast. That's what I think. So I think East Coast, West Coast. Even in Costa Rica, you're the Pacific and the Caribbean, but it's like the East and the West, like this. So I'm not thinking that that Colombia had a Caribbean and Pacific coast, but now I see it on the map and I understand it. But the Pacific coast is just south of the Atlantic coast, the Caribbean coast. And so the Pacific coast, because Cartagena is very black, but people are like, no. And I read this too. The the Pacific coast of Colombia is way blacker. Like it's like you might have like 50% in Cartagena, and it's like 90% on the Pacific coast. And people don't usually go over there. Most tourists avoid it. The terrain is totally different, and people say, "Oh, it's dangerous." You know, "Oh, it's dangerous. You don't want to go over there. It's dangerous." And so, you know, a lot of people say that about places that's heavily black. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's not. You know. So that's what people said. Now, so this morning I'm checking out, my Airbnb host finds out, like, for real, understood that what I was into. She said to me, "You need to go to Cali." And when I told her, everybody keeps telling me that, I know about Cali, I wanted to go. I told her why I chose Medellin. She told me, no, you would have been fine in Cali by yourself. I don't know why they told you that. You would have been fine. They have an infrastructure. That's where she said the people in Medellin, I mean, not Medellin, the people in black people, and she said Medellin's not a lot of black people. She told me Medellin was founded by Jews, and that the people here are just about working and making money. Now, I don't know how true that is, but that's what she said to me, right? She said it's not a lot of black people, and she said you need to go to Cali, and then you need to go to Buenaventura and Tamaco. And that's on Tamaco, and Buenaventura is on the Pacific coast. And it's like, you can go to Cali and then go south, because Cali is close to the Pacific coast. So she tells me that this morning, and I'm like, so is it dangerous? I need to be. She was like, you're black, you'll be fine. You know, you're black, you'll be fine. It's very black over there. No, it's just more poor, but you'll be fine. Okay, so I'm like, this is, now I found where I need to go, because she told me they play the marimba, and that's where, because I'm telling you, Colombia has some very African traditions that are very different than Brazil and Cuba and Dominican Republic and all these other places. Everybody has totally different shit and retentions. And so she's like, that's where you have to go. And so I'm like, okay, so, well, I can't do anything about it now. I'm in Medellin. So but then she also told me, be careful. I'm going to Medellin, because she said, you could get your arm chopped off in Medellin. That's what she said to me. And I'm like, but I've read the statistics about Medellin that it's gotten a lot better. You know, all the people that I meet that go to Medellin, or you see videos, all people do is talk about how that's exaggerated, how safe they feel. Like, I've heard anybody complain or say anything like that. So you just, you know, I'm like, hasn't it gotten better? And she's like, yeah, but she was like, there's a famous Colombian singer who was killed in the street like a couple weeks ago, you know. And then I'm like, okay. She was like, just be careful. You know, don't walk around with your phone, which I don't do anyway. That's why you guys don't see me walking around a lot of people make YouTube videos where they're walking around with their phone. I don't do that shit, because I'm trying to blend in as much as possible, and people probably still know I'm not from here, but I'm not trying to walk around with a phone and get robbed or some shit. No, so I don't do those kind of videos. You can watch other people's videos for that. So yeah, I go to the airport, and then when I get to Medellin. Yeah. So when I get to Medellin, first of all, when I landed, like, it was so beautiful, like beauty that I can't describe. So I land, and as soon as we leave the airport, it's just like these beautiful mountains. And Medellin is known as the land of the eternal spring. And there's a lot of flowers and stuff like that. Lots of flowers everywhere. So on the ride from the airport, which is like almost an hour ride, it was the most beautiful ride I think I've ever taken in my life. Okay. Hawaii is pretty beautiful. You know, I've seen some gorgeousness in Hawaii. I've seen some gorgeousness in Costa Rica. I've seen some gorgeousness in Cuba. Medellin, oh my God. Like, first of all, there were so many different, I love hills. I love hills. I think that Vermont is very beautiful because it has a lot of green rolling hills everywhere. Green rolling hills. It reminds me of a woman's body, right? Medellin, all these hills and all these different shades of green, vivid green grasses, vivid green on the trees, then beautiful flowers. Like, I love flowers. Beautiful flowers growing everywhere. These really healthy looking horses. Like, I've been places where the horses don't look that healthy. These horses, strong, healthy, beautiful horses, eating the grass, flowers, hills. You know, you're driving. I mean, the architecture. It wasn't like, you know, some places you go, they have beautiful terrain, but then like the houses are like, it's like all these little huts and people look like they're struggling. No, like the architecture was modern and so beautiful, like just breathtaking. Like, I wanted to take pictures, but I was like, the pictures wouldn't do any justice. I have an iPhone and not a professional camera. And when you're taking pictures and documenting, you can't fully be present. And for me, when I travel, like I'm fully present. Like Chicago, all the times I went there, like wherever I'm at, I look out the window and I people watch. The New Yorker in me people watches, and I observe everything that I'm seeing. Because if you could go someplace that you've never been and just be looking at your phone the whole time you're in the car and talking to people and bullshitting and reading the book, and there's a whole bunch of shit in that city, in that place that you're not seeing. So you have to be fully present, you know, and observe, like really just look and just take it all in. And so, oh my God, Medellin was more beautiful than I imagined. And I'm like, in the hills and the greenery and the rolling hills. But there were actually signs about like you can't pass people and you can't do certain things, which a lot of times when I leave America and I'm in the Caribbean or South America, even in Hawaii, people are like cutting each other off on the side of a mountain and you feel like you're about to die. People here don't do that. Like they don't do that. They were driving fast, but I didn't feel like I was going to die like I do a lot of times, you know, when I leave the country. And the smell of the air, it was like this fresh, fertile soil, okay? And then food everywhere, like all kinds of food that look better than the food in Cartagena. I can't wait to eat. I'm about to go outside and eat. So I'm like, oh my God. And then the airport in Cartagena and in Medellin is very modern. The most modern airports I've been to in like, since like, in terms of when I've left the country and gone to the Caribbean, like the airport in Haiti, the airports, well, I can't remember what San Juan was like, but that's kind of part of the United States. But like compared to Haiti, Costa Rica, Cuba, Jamaica, like those places that I've been, like the airports in Colombia were very modern, free Wi-Fi, nice things. Let me show you what I found, okay? Colombia, one thing about Cartagena is a good place to shop. Medellin maybe too, I don't know. But for those of you who might be following me for a while, you know that I wear these Amazon waist belts that I call, right? So I always have like these belts around my waist that have different pockets, right? And I've collected them over the years. And let me put my pants up. I've collected them over the years. And the last one I had was orange, and I got lost. It's somebody's house in New York or something back in December, and I haven't got a new one. And when I travel, I especially love stuff like this because somebody can steal my bag and they won't have all my stuff that matters is on me. But these things are cool because they have, you can't see, but there's an inside pocket in here, right? Then, and this is leather. This right here comes off, right? So this is like a whole, this got pockets inside. Now I could take this off. There's also this pocket and then this pocket, right? That all zip. So the money, like if I have like my immediate money, like my small bills, that's when I throw out a couple of dollars, I could put it or change. It's like right here. So you got this stuff in the inside pockets, right? This was $60 in the airport, and this is really well made leather. And I always wear stuff like this when I travel because I feel safe. Everything I need, you can't steal this off of me, and you can't get into my passport is on the inside, zipped in. Can't get it, right? Okay, so there's so many. I got so many dope things, like the earrings I had on yesterday that I don't have on now. That is pre-Columbian copper, and it shines bright like gold from India. So there's really, beautiful things, really good quality clothing, unique stuff that is very well priced. So once I got here, I'm just gonna help you end this because I want to go eat. Medellin is actually in the valley. So I posted some photos on Instagram out of my window, but those photos don't show the beauty I saw driving here because we came down out the mountains, and now down to the valley. But it is so gorgeous. I mean, like the smell, the air, I was just like overly stimulated, like, wow, like, wow. And like, I can't believe that such ugly stuff happened here. All the murders, all the people that were killed, because it's so beautiful and the people are so friendly. I feel so safe. I felt so safe in Cartagena, and I feel so safe here. When I arrived at the taxi, I was told by my Airbnb host that the taxi should be 80,000 mil, which is about $27 or something, and it's like an hour ride. But I actually paid 75,000. And the driver, he was really good. I spoke to him in Spanish the entire time. He told me where to dance tonight. He also told me to go to Cali, but he told me where to dance tonight, where I could find some good dancing. And then when he dropped me off at the building, the neighborhood is beautiful. When he dropped me off at the building, like down woman, because she was really good, but she's very dykey, so kind of like a man, but I don't know. But doorman woman downstairs, who greeted me and took my bag, told me where to, upstairs, because they already had my name, and go up in the elevator on 9th floor and put the code in the keypad, come in the apartment, which I showed on my Instagram. I didn't show it in the YouTube video, the apartment that I'm staying in, but it's really nice. And like the shower has glass doors, which I love. I'd rather be in a shower with glass doors than be in like a tub with a shower curtain. That shit grosses me out. That's another reason why I fucking hate hotels. If I stay in a hotel, I need the glass doors in the shower. So in both of my apartments in Medellin and in Cartagena were like that. It's very modern and $45 a night. I think this place might have actually been like $30 a night or something. It was really, really cheap. My place in Cartagena was $45 a night across from the beach. So yeah, I'm about to go. And then also the train. Medellin has very good public transportation, and the train is a block from me, and I can see it out the window. So I'm about to get on the train. There's also like a lot of food downstairs. So I'm gonna eat, and I am going to see what I can find about the cultural stuff in Medellin. What I do know about Medellin is that the girls here, it's just like with America. You cannot just go to one city. Like if somebody has never been to the United States and they just go to Detroit, or they just go to Philly, or they just go to New York, or they just go to LA, whatever city it is, you can't go to one American city and think that you have an idea of what America is like. Because depending on what part of America you're in, we have different foods, we have different traditions, we have different ways we speak, different music we listen to. So America is super diverse, but that's true of every country. And then when you have a huge country, that's even multiplied, And so in Medellin, like from what I know, the girls here, like you could probably say they're like Atlanta or Miami girls, where they expect dudes to pay for everything. They expect dudes to buy everything. They look at dudes for their money. And that is very much the thing in Atlanta and Miami that has a strip club culture. And no offense to any strippers or anything like that, or anything wrong with it. But I feel like the strip club culture mindset, like they look at dudes like money, like, and so that's how the girls are apparently in Medellin, but they're beautiful, but that's how they are. But then if you're like in Bogota, they're not like that. Or like to me, Cartagena, I'm not sure because I haven't seen enough of Colombia, but I'm kind of starting to feel like it might be similar to like maybe their New Orleans, but I think New Orleans is better, but I think that it might be similar to that. Whereas like in New Orleans, the women are wild, and I don't feel like they don't have the Atlanta and Miami mindset of like, trying to get shit from dudes. They just want to have fun. Like New Orleans women want to turn the fuck up. They not trying to play games with you. They about their life, and I love them, and Cartagena, this girls, walking around being, but I don't know. But that's just what it seems like I know. So I'm gonna see. Oh, and so the last thing I want to say is that upon arriving, I have another Colombian friend, or not friend, but Facebook friend, who's been my Facebook friend for a while, who saw me post about Medellin. He told me, again, you need to go to Cali, another person. So Cali is definitely where I'm going next time I come back here. So he says, and San Basilio, Palenque de San Basilio, which is a free town of Africans, like Africans that got brought to Colombia, Colombia was number 2 in the slave trade after Brazil in terms of the amount of Africans that were brought here. So Colombia is very black. And there's a town of Palenque de San Basilio where it's free Africans that never were enslaved, and they have their own tradition, their own language, Palenquero. It's an hour from Cartagena, and I want to go, and I have not gone. And they came to Chicago and performed, and I saw them, and they were teaching some of the language, and I want to go there, and I want to study with them too. And so that the next time I come, I do want to spend a couple days in Cartagena just so I can do that, and then go to Cali. So But this one person who's my Facebook friend, he told me, he's from Colombia. He told me you need to go to Cali. Then he told me about Buenaventura, which is my Airbnb host this morning told me about. And he told me, be careful in Medellin. He said Medellin is too white and too racist. And that's what he said to me. And he told me there was a black boy who was just lynched in Medellin like last week or a couple of weeks ago, right? So I'm like, okay. And I'm like, it's interesting. And he says, you know, Cali is where it's at, blah, blah, blah. And there's so much black. And he told me that Cali is the second, has the second largest black population out of any city in South America. Cali was that black. So, because whenever I've seen videos of people in Cali, they've never been black. They've always been like more mestizo, like light-skinned, J-Lo looking types. Even my best friend, who's Colombian, is more like mestizo, like J-Lo looking Colombian. So I didn't know that, right? So, and he told me, yeah, like, so, but then there's all these Afro-Americans who have moved to Medellin, and you can find their blogs on YouTube where they praise it and they say that they feel safe and they don't feel like any racism. But at the same time, a lot of Afro-Americans and a lot of the world is very ignorant to the race problems in Latin America. I know about it because I've been aware of it since I was a kid, growing up in Washington Heights around Dominicans, and with a father who was a Pan-Africanist, Afro-American history professor, black scholar. So I've always been aware of the race issues in Latin America, and that the fact that they're a lot worse in Latin America than they are in North America. And one of the issues, and this is one thing I appreciate about Cuba, is that Cuba is full of really smart black people who know they're black, and they know their history, they know where they come from. They have books about it everywhere in Cuba, and about like the African history, blah, 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 in Cuba. Like, and so Cubans will talk about race more, but Latin America, they do an awful job at just trying to, like, they crack a lot of jokes, which is one thing I love about Latin American countries, but they also try to act like, oh, color doesn't matter. Oh, my family, all of our families are every different color. I have light skin and dark skin in my family. And okay, no shit, Sherlock, the same thing is true for Americans. There's people in my family who look white, bright, and damn near white, and Polish, and Native American, and black as fuck. Like, people look all kinds of ways in my family too. And that's true of Afro-Americans as well. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that there's no race problem and there's no color problem. That doesn't mean that the darker people aren't more oppressed, because that is the case in Latin America. That is the case. And on Spanish TV, and, you know, I appreciate Amara La Negra for bringing up the conversation, but I feel like she does a very lightweight job at doing it, because I'm just going to say this and be done, because this really gets on my nerves, is on Love and Hip Hop Miami. And I talked about this in my video. I have a video called Latino Misconceptions that you think people should watch, because a lot of people just seem to get stupid when people speak Spanish. They don't understand. There are black Hispanics and there are white Hispanics. There are white people from Puerto Rico. There are white people from Cuba. There are white people from Colombia. There are black people from Colombia. There's black people from Cuba, and everything in between. But there are white Hispanics that will say, oh, I don't consider myself white, but you are white though. The same way that people get mad that Afro-Hispanics sometimes will say that they don't consider themselves black, and people get so mad. You need to get mad at the white ones who say that they don't consider themselves white, because they are. Ricky Ricardo was white. He was a white Cuban. All that Babalu, and that came from black Cubans. It came from Afro-Cubans who are blacker than me, okay? Okay, yeah, it came from Afro-Cubans who are blacker than me, but then you have like Ricky Ricardo as the face of it. Gloria Estefan. My dad used to always point out Gloria Estefan to me and say, you see that? This music doesn't come from people that look like her. This comes from Afro-Cubans, visibly black Cubans, dark-skinned Afro-Cubans. Gloria Estefan descends from the Spanish. She, you know, like, but a lot of people, they think, oh, she's Cuban. Oh, like she's in the same category with the Afro-Cubans. No, she's not. So on Love and Hip Hop Miami, and Cuba was extremely racist, and the white Cubans in Miami, I hate them. They're the reasons, one of the major reasons why I don't like Miami. There's a lot of reasons why I'm not a big fan of Miami. The white Cubans are a huge part of it. Totally different than the Cubans in Miami. I mean, in Cuba. Cuba is very black, and they feel smart, nice Cubans, you know? But anyhow, Love and Hip Hop Miami, there's this white Cuban artist named Veronica Vega. And she had a song where she was using the N-word. And Black people got offended. And she fought for the right to use that word. And then dumbass Trick Daddy and dumbass Noriega from New York was over here like, Noriega's like, well, you Cuban, right? Well, people know that, yeah, you guys are just as dark as us, so you could use the word. It's like, you dumbass. Yeah, there's Cubans that's just as dark as Afro-Americans because they're Afro-Cubans. But does that give a white chick the right to say the N-word? Do you see Black people in America? First of all, I already made a video about my opinion about that. You never hear me say the N-word. I think Black people sound retarded. And I think if Black people just kept that word at home amongst each other, this never would be a conversation. But the influential, whatever they want, but everybody copies us. People copy our slang, people copy our style, even how we make music videos. And so if we have that kind of influence in the world to be nigga this, nigga that, nigga this, nigga that all the time with people who listen to our shit, it's stupid because now people all over the world are saying it, including the Black kids in the streets of Colombia, which I heard in a video made by an Afro-American saying that they be really calling you nigga in the street. Like, what's up, my nigga? And try to sell you stuff. That shit does not work for me, especially in a country like Colombia and these Spanish countries that have bad race problems and they already deny it. Now you want to mix that in the mix? No. And then you, bitch, being a white Cuban. She's clearly white. I don't consider myself white. Listen, I'm tired of people. The same thing happened on Black Ink Chicago with a Mexican girl who used the word, and some of the Black people on the show were upset and offended by it, and she was fighting with them for the right to use it. Fuck no. Now people are acting too entitled and getting too much out of their lane. Because even if you thought as a white Cuban, or if you thought as a Mexican, or you thought as somebody from Senegal that you could use that word, and an Afro-American is telling you it's offensive, then stop fucking using the word. You don't have a right to start arguing about this shit like you have rights in using it. I have no patience for that shit. I want to slap her. And then when you put it into context, you are a white Cuban in Miami with a bunch of blatantly racist ass white Cubans. I never experienced blatant racism until I went to Miami. I haven't experienced that shit anywhere in America like I experienced in Miami from white Cubans. They disgust me, okay? And dead ass serious, they disgust me. Now, so to me, if that's where you come from, and then you come from Hialeah, which is a white Cuban neighborhood, and you like, I'm from the hood, I could use the word bitch. No, okay? No. And then Amada La Negra is on the stage and people are jumping on Amada like, Amada, you're Spanish. How could Trick Daddy is so ignorant. Let me tell you, oh my God. The ignorance that exists in Miami is so. Trick Daddy says to Amada La Negra, oh, well, he says, you didn't defend her. You're Spanish, and Veronica Vega speaks more perfect Spanish than you. So the fact that you don't even speak good English, he says to Amada La Negra, and you didn't defend her. And I'm like, it's Trick Daddy is a whole piece of shit, and he looks like a whole piece of shit, and he's not talented. Trick Daddy is not a good fucking rapper. Fuck him. Anyhow, Amada La Negra, instead of standing up for herself and putting into context, since she is the one that has been really bringing attention to these issues in Latin America, instead of her saying, look, first of all, she's white. And Amada, that in Dominican Republic, they hate dark skin. You know that. You know that people that look like Veronica Vega look down on you in the DR. You know that. So you know that just because she's from a Spanish-speaking country, just because she's Hispanic, doesn't mean that she's not racist, because Latin America is super racist. So how come Amada La Negra could not say that shit? Like, no offense to Dominicans, because I know some smart Dominicans, I do. But Dominicans, a lot of times, and I know some people are going to get mad at me, but a lot of times they just be a little slow. Like, just a little, like, can you just, and so, like I said, I respect Amada. I respect her for bringing up the issue, but she's very lightweight about it. There's a lot of times that she does key things that she doesn't mention or say, and it's like she doesn't get it. And it's like, Amada, you don't need to defend this bitch. Like, she's a white Cuban. She's not Black. Cuban doesn't mean Black. Cuban means Cuban. Like, American means American. A white American doesn't have the right to go, like, using the N-word, and they're like, well, I'm American. Yeah, but you're not Black. American is a nationality. Cuban is a nationality. There are white Cubans. There are black Cubans. There are indigenous Cubans. There are Chinese Cubans. There's Japanese Cubans. There's Cubans that's a mixture of black and white, mixture of black and native, mix of black, white, and Chinese. Same thing with America. Same thing with America. Okay, so that's my rant for the day. I'm going to go out and enjoy the day. And tomorrow I'll report back or whenever about what I've discovered in Medellin. And anybody who's been here has anything to share about anything I've said about Cali, about Buenaventura, about Tamaco, about Cartagena, about Medellin, please share, because that's how we learn. Have a good day, people. Bye-bye.